record right now. Um, so Adrian Viaud, did I say that right?
Yep.
And I can see on my screen the option to pause or stop recording, which tells me that I am recording. And thank you for your understanding last week. We had a technical error. Um,
Perfectly fine. It
so,
happens.
how are you today?
I can't complain. It's been a great day. I got to talk to Kai this morning and teach him a little bit about fermented grapes. So it was interesting. And I got my hands on some K barbecue, man. I've been fiending for like K barbecue for weeks. I love Korean barbecue.
Where do you get it?
There we have a restaurant called Bold. It's a family-owned restaurant here on the island.
Sounds like you're off in Samoa or something.
I wish. No, it is kind of like its own little Samoa.
Um, well,
Mm.
again, thank you for your time and for working through Zoom, and
Of course.
thanks to Zoom too. All right, Adrian, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do professionally?
Absolutely. So I work at a company, or I started a talent incubator called Sine Wave, and we're part Artist Guild and Artist Business Collective. Uh, we get to make sure that a lot of the artists, especially my latest artists like Kai Universal, get to where they need to be or to the next level. So we're not really looking at sort of any major artists, but rather people who we say have the potential to. And then honing in on that potential is really what I do. I like to call myself a curator or uh, a sound designer, sort of sound curator at that point.
Okay, and what else do you do? I feel like you're again holding back. Like,
Okay. Well, yeah, like not really holding back, but me myself, I'm a designer. I make clothing or I do graphic design. I create music. I write books. Me, just as a person, I like to do a lot. I create a lot of things. Just a creator in general. I love creating stories. I love creating narrative devices across all sorts of media. That's me at a nutshell. I love art in general. And so at the company, I handled the music production, I handled the marketing, I handled the development of the talent, I handled the manufacturing, the logistics, everything at the company. I'm the last person to see the missive before we close the project.
how do you find your clients?
Uh, it's a collection of things. Some of them usually come from word of mouth from other clients. I think a big sort of my talent base that I'm looking at is through the internet. I mean, Instagram and Facebook have allowed us to find so many new acts, even just streaming music. So I look for new music all the time. And if I find somebody on SoundCloud that I like, or I'll reach out.
Um, how'd you find Kai?
Yeah, that's a peculiar story too. So we met twice. I met Kai at Dope Era. There was a Monday, they did Music Mondays there, and I saw him perform once in the. It was a small, tiny little space too, the first Dope Era store, and he performed there. It was kind of, I thought nothing of it, and then we met again at the Twitter headquarters for a Gager event. I forget exactly what it was for, but the artist it was for, it was her album release party. Um, more into with him, he reached out to me after that meeting because he was looking to take his career a little bit further, I guess you could say. And then we met at his house, and then that was my like third encounter with him, and I really got to see how he lived and what his mind was like. And it was a great experience for me because I never seen somebody with so much energy and so much passion for it. but also where the talent connected.
So this is my curiosity. What determines like if you continue with an artist? Is it on you? Is it on the artist? Like is it a mix?
It's a 50-50. Me personally, I have to be able to develop not necessarily a family because we're business oriented, but a very solid bond with the person. I have to know that their mind is in a place that is of the utmost sort of determination to see the thing get done. It's oftentimes everybody, all of us would know this. We start something and we stop. You know, no matter how good we get or how frustrated we get with it, we start something and we stop. So I look for that thing in an artist. Me, what I'm looking at is their work ethic at that point. They have to want it more than me.
Would you say that it's fair, like work ethic is maybe the number one reason that people advance in music, or what would you say is not?
It's a couple of things. They call it the je ne sais quoi, the I don't know what, right? It's like you see that thing in that person. I think I've come to understand sort of defining that for me what that means. But overall, I'm looking at the talent and I'm going, because oftentimes it's cliche, I guess, but hard work beats talent where talent doesn't work hard. And so I'm always looking to see, can they withstand the moments where they're not getting the followers, where they're not getting the big stage presence? What do they do in that moment? Because that's going to build their character. And usually you see those people last long and make it.
Um, well, I was hoping. I know that you want to talk about like I had asked you what you want to talk about, and part of my reason for this interview is to talk about COVID-19 and to bring in your expertise and how COVID has affected your industry and your work. And I know you want to talk about uh, suggestions for families and what they can do. So
Yeah.
we can jump into that, or we can.
I want to start with let's get into the impact on the industry.
Okay, so I'd love to hear from you about how COVID-19 has affected your work, how it's affected the industries that you work in.
So with music, it's very integrated with just, especially when you're an independent record label and talent. We have manufacturers for our clothes. We have people that distribute, or we have like the rent buses and stuff that we need to go on tour. We have photographers. There's a whole ecosystem right now that's not being able to be utilized, especially for us, because we can't meet up. Right, even shows are being canceled. Uh, and mass gatherings where you really get to, I think Kai was saying to me earlier, it's cool we get to do our virtual shows and all, but I it's just something about sitting right next to the person or seeing your audience face to face, like when we were at that panel at Skyline. It's a much more intimate or beautiful experience. You get to look people directly in the eyes and feel their electricity. So we can't have these mass gatherings at our shows, and not only just the family or the community nature of it, but our finances usually come primarily from touring. Record sales don't mean a thing anymore. So an artist's income is coming from that next gig, that next college show, or even right now, we were supposed to be on tour. We were supposed to be in the middle of California at different schools. We had radio interview that was canceled. We had a lot of plans. Like our clothing company is our category for social streetwear. So it's a lot to do with touching and getting in touch with your community and really bringing people together. So we had a picnic planned for that, and we had to cancel that. So that it just really sucks. You can't really see the people, even students in their classrooms and stuff. They can't really connect with each other face to face.
And so, what are you seeing? Like, because we're in I don't know 6 weeks now of shelter in place. Like, have you seen any change in your work and industry over the 6 weeks? Has it been just like I don't know, wrecking ball hit it and it's just been the same ever since, or like what's happening?
Uh, I noticed that a lot of the major labels aren't shifting completely, but special things have been happening for a lot of us independents where we do get to have virtual community gatherings and with over Zoom. Or I was at a Skyline thing last night. They did over Zoom, and it was just really interesting to see that we could still have a show or a talent, a bunch of talent in one space showing off what they do best for a massive group of people. And that that much innovation, I think, is what I've been trying to keep my mind focused on. Fortnite did a concert, a 3D concert or virtual concert for Travis Scott recently, and so that's something. Hey, that's something that a lot of artists are taking advantage of on the independent side, and that stuff fascinates me.
That concert was
Yeah,
weird.
it was crazy. You saw it.
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube. That was
It was,
weird stuff.
man, and they're like swimming, and oh man, it's crazy.
But I mean, how many? It said like 13 million people, or
Yeah,
upwards of 13 million tuned in. So
yeah.
what was weird about it? It's just like a really surreal thing to see a rapper, um, a huge 3D model of a rapper in a kids game in like this really almost psychedelic like musical performance. It was strange.
Well said, well said. Yeah, I
Yeah,
felt the same way, but
it's very
that's
surreal.
that's what makes it special.
Yeah. Was there any resemblance to like a normal? I mean, normal concert? Was it like anything that felt at all natural
No,
about
like
it?
they
Or?
had him. They had his Travis Scott's Fortnite model. Like I don't know. He was like,
He was a giant.
yeah, he was a giant. He was like messing with space and time, like going to space and stuff.
The only thing that really symbolized a normal concert was that there was a bunch of people there to see one artist. That's it. Everything else was completely just up to, because you could run around, right? In this space, you're running around. That's unheard of at concerts. So you're a character, or you're running around in the space, and the environment is shifting, and lights are going off, and things are exploding, and then water's coming up, and then you're in space, and all the music is happening, and he's performing. It's insane.
What do you mean you could run around? I'm not familiar. Like it's like a
Uh,
you're like a bot.
yeah, you're a player character, a 3D avatar that runs around in a space. Usually, the space is designed for combat between
Yeah,
teams.
it's a first person or it's a third person shooter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what they put the concert
yeah,
in.
yeah,
I
yeah. It's really,
Yeah, so they turned the battle arena into a concert arena.
mean, I don't support violence. You couldn't like shoot. I mean, you couldn't
No,
attack.
no, no.
Okay.
So the other cool thing about it, and I think back to innovation, right? Even the developers in the game, instead of giving the players violent emotions and motion animations, they had party animations. They're dancing animations, and they had like memorabilia and stuff. They could make lights go off,
little
and
microphone stand
costumes.
me.
Yeah, yeah, costumes they could put on. So it was really about the moment and gathering those people together just for that.
Is that kind of tech accessible, or you need like a lot of money for something like that?
Accessible, yes and no. Yeah, so there's ways you can get through it for maybe less than $10,000, but
Whoa.
once you get into that level of it, you have to work with the developer. The developer had to pay a license to even get access to stream this music, so they had to pay Travis Scott premium rate for his music. They had to create the assets, so that's workers, in the office designing the characters and the models and this whole experience. So yeah, they spent. I'd imagine Epic Games spent some millions of dollars on that experience.
Was he performing live?
No, no,
No, it was
no.
pre-rendered.
I see.
So what they do is they just update the shell of the game in order to create these new things.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah, it's really crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even. I'm not very familiar with his music, to be honest. Um, I confused him for a country singer like
You
a year
might
ago.
like it.
That's perfect because he kind of is. He
Is he?
technically is a country singer. He's from uh, the middle of Texas somewhere,
Yeah.
and he sings.
He's very Kanye West.
Yeah, child of Kanye West.
Yeah.
So Adrian, do you just kind of stepping aside, are you seeing any positives come out of COVID-19 in the music industry?
Absolutely. I think the biggest positive for me is seeing more community-driven efforts between people and the organizations. So, like we had the Epic Games thing. There's 88 Rising did a virtual concert the other day, or and it was amazing. It was also pre-recorded. However, the way they structured it and planned it got, what was it, some 15 million people that came to watch this thing or something. I don't know how many people were there, but they got these people together. The framing of it was very community oriented. They had a charity going for, and the charity played out as a story over the event. So there was a lot of interesting things that I'm seeing. Again, the more independent artists or companies able to do on the community side, and that right now is the biggest thing any artist or company needs, because one, we shouldn't have to rely on the majors. Obviously, they can't get it together. They don't know what to do, and we can start to control the flux of money to the artists or to the direct, direct to consumer relationships. I think are very important. It's almost like we become a coffee shop now.
Do you think that like your understanding, like, I mean, I don't mean this in a patronizing way. I don't understand the tech at all. Like, your understanding of the tech, is it something that that distribution model can retain ownership of in terms of like direct to consumer?
Yeah, if artists are interested, I mean, I'm sure a lot will go into the major system, and the majors will find their way to do similar things. But where we strive at as independent companies is that we innovate all the time. Whatever is happening, we have to adjust our plan. And so uh, the future to me is looking very bright, and I'm very optimistic of sort of the shifts that we can go with the technology, like Zoom becoming a big thing. Everybody's using it. I've seen songwriting sessions done on Zoom. I've seen recording sessions or band rehearsals run through it. I've seen so many things in the last, even shows, right? Even whole performances and shows are being run here. So you have Zoom, you have the Fortnite thing. So maybe we'll see more virtual spaces pop up. Maybe we'll see more artists get into creating virtual assets, like the Gorillas, for instance. Speaking on the Gorillas, they're releasing a song maybe once a month now, and so that we'll see models like that pop up that are less, they're less album oriented, where you have to download or listen to one package of music. It's more like, hey, we want to share a song with you this week, and so you really start to build that direct to consumer relationship even more.
Um, it's it's cool. That's cool to hear. That's good. Yeah, I hope that can keep up.
I
Um,
hope so too.
yeah. My coffee hasn't hit me fully today. Um, I'm not feeling super sharp with my questions, but
It's good. We're family here.
so some of the tech in coffee is domestic. Is the tech that you're talking about, is it global? Like can someone enter this Travis Scott concert from anywhere?
Yeah, so you could be from, yeah, basically if you had access to one of the consoles that, or I think PC, Xbox, PlayStation, something like that. If you had access to one of those things, you had access to see it. And so I think you really, it does kind of play to a specific crowd, because you have to be one, interested in Travis, or interested in Fortnite. So that's kind of limiting a little bit. But yeah, anybody could pop in on these kind of things. It's not as accessible as something like YouTube still, though.
So I'm just gonna push again here. One of my theories about, like, I have this theory that people with money and like the big labels, as you call them, like in every industry, as we kind of come out of COVID, there will be a heavy push to really just put things back the way they were. And so, as someone in the industry, like a two-pronged question. One, what are ways you see that people can really retain the local or the smaller kind of empowering distribution and really empowering smaller artists maybe? And second, what are you going to do as an entrepreneur and somebody in the industry in order to kind of keep a stronghold of these positive changes that you're seeing?
So one, to answer the first part, you have to, I think a lot of people are just going to have to know what they're in this for, because there are going to be a lot of artists that go into that system. There are going to be a lot of companies, whether they're oil magnates or, I don't know, deforesters, whoever, they're going to try to get back into speed. You're going to have people who want to go clubbing again. It's just going to happen. The best thing we could do at this point is really hope in this moment that we're aware of what side of the fence we're playing on, and that the people that we come to communicate with, we understand what side they're on. Either you're sort of for the new or the innovative, the new normal, or you really want to get that pushback and go back. And that's fine, I guess. But me personally, I'm in it for seeing things, newer initiatives moving more towards environment and community, and moving more towards, again, self-empowerment between companies and smaller organizations, because that's where we're going to see major changes start on the local level, right? Um, Us personally at Sine Wave, I'm always going to make sure that our technology, or at least we have access to something that we can share with everyone. Even you're never going to attract everyone with your business, but knowing what side of the fence you're on will at least help other people be clear on whether they buy with you or come to one of your events. I like I like innovation. I like the people side of this. I like a world where we can, when things like this happen again, we all can get on the same page and nip it in the bud really quickly, because we're all smart like that when we work together.
What would you say to developing artists right now trying to navigate this really innovation or reconstruction of the music industry?
Newer artists, it's tough, because it is like I could do and say the hopeful thing is just, yeah, be very community oriented, but the truth is a lot of newer artists don't care. They A lot of artists probably don't care in general. When we're tunnel vision, we have tunnel vision to get our thing off. We just care about the thing, no matter who we have to go through or what we have to do to get it. So, and I mean, people are still, they need to make money and do whatever they need to do to survive, however they see fit. But I would hope, maybe in a nutshell, that we don't have to live in a fear-based mindset as artists, as creatives, because we have an abundance of tools, we have an abundance of access to levels of industry that in the last 20 years no artist has ever had access to. You're talking about, I can get my own stickers, I can make my own merch, I can plan my own show over the internet and sell tickets, I can build my community through Instagram, I can Facebook, Twitter, whatever. It's there. Like, your whole pipeline is there. So that, I would hope, no fear, and just, look, read, talk to who you need to talk to. Don't have money or the goal of being famous. Don't try to be someone. Try to do something.
Yeah, hearing you talk, it's interesting to me how there's like parallels between really, I'm sure that from the humanistic side, like coffee and music, they share a lot in common. And in the past, like I've tried to focus a lot on I have focused a lot on things that don't really make money, but they're, I feel like good for, they make me feel good. Honestly, and they add to our brand, but they're really community-based events. And now that COVID's happened, like it magically monetized that. It magically added like value to these assets that had no value before, which I thought was really interesting, especially as a business owner. It's just fascinating to see. Here comes the world like kind of crashing down, and then all of a sudden, like these avenues, old and new, have value. But hearing you talk, it seems like there's parallels like that.
There are. If I could add to that, there is very, very much the same thing. To me, very few things are disconnected. Right? Like the earliest, everybody before this happened, if you had to study something, if you were writing something, if you just wanted to chill out, where would we go? To the coffee shop. And they would either you'd have your headphones on. Music plays a just as much of a part of our lives as a cup of coffee does. You would think that 5 cents or $1 you spend, $3, whatever it is, you grab your cup, you go. But just imagine your day without those two things, your coffee and that music you had during your commute. It'd be insane, right? It'd be anarchy out there in the streets, So very few things are disconnected for me.
Yeah, I like that. That was kind of a dystopian picture you painted right there. No music or coffee.
Yeah, no music or roast, man.
I mean, forget work.
Life is over at that point. Come on, like it's very, very small things, right, in our lives that we just there's the thing that when you're sending an email, you don't think about it, but there's a computer program that runs in the background to get your email where it's supposed to go. But we don't think about that, right? There's little things in our lives that we have like that are very analog between us as humans that we just don't think about. Breathing, for instance, right?
Yeah, someone said that to me last week because we were on the phone and I was sending an email and we were both being impatient, and then she's like, nobody thinks about like what has to happen for that satellite to bounce off that data. Like, I don't want to think about that. I just want
I just want my email sent.
So
Serious.
So what I know you're interested in like families, and can you talk a little bit about what families can do while they're locked down, while they're in shelter in place? Maybe lockdown's the wrong word, but
I think one of the things I like to do, especially now that we're talking about gaming, this is an interesting thing to do, is find a multiplayer video game or something. I know between my fiance and I, we play our 3DS, we play Monster Hunter together.
I used to mess with that game, dude.
It's awesome, man. Especially when you got a group of people and you just want to go. It's a very like casual game, but it has a lot of hardcore stuff that you can get into. But if you just want to fire something up and play together, it's cool. I like the idea of bringing the board game back. A good old round of Monopoly to get the family stirred up is always is always a good recipe for disaster. But yeah.
I was waiting for the my left leanings again, but like tossing Monopoly will have like socialistopoly or whatever, because it like I don't know if I want to teach my kid to like take every property and just put me on the street. I mean, that's what it does, right? You end up like there's no middle ground in Monopoly. You end up with like someone's just dirt
I
broke.
need a minute. I need a minute. Wait. I couldn't imagine that, having my kid wipe me out of Monopoly, and I'm like, yo, what did I create? I created a capitalist monster.
But board games, I'm with you on the board games.
There should be some sort of I think that's the game of life. Play game of life. It's one of the ones that is kind of middle ground. I like Cluedo. Cluedo is my favorite game, board game.
Is that an older game, Cluedo?
Yeah, you know the one. Somebody got murdered, and y'all have to walk around the mansion and figure out who did it.
We've been we live in an apartment, and my daughter and I have learned how to sneak up on one another. Um,
Nice.
but I really scared her really bad. The first effort I made at trying to sneak into a room, to the point where she was like crying and screaming at me. So
That's when
It's-
it's fun.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I gotta
You
find it.
know, it's a cool thing about play. I always had this conversation with my colleagues at Sine Wave here is the basis of the word recreation is recreation, right? We are recreating experiences. So when you just explain that, like you guys are pretending to sneak up on each other, it's another form of thing that's happening. You're recreating that thing. And so play is a very necessary thing. You know, I always wonder why as adults or after middle school, we stop the play part of it. Like I'm sure parents would love to go down the slide again or swing on the swings. Why is it weird for adults to want to do that? So I encourage even older people or people with their kids like play, like get out to put the phone down and roll around in the grass or something, you know, just or lay in the grass and look at the sky at night if you can somewhere. Just things like that. Very simple things that again we take for granted. Just being able to spend a quality sort of time without the electronics,
Yeah, it's,
talking to each other.
see, I kind of struggle with like this entire shelter in place because there's times when it's like very intense and exciting as a business owner, but then like then I get kind of I run dry of energy, and I'm like personally I'm somebody that if like there's a difficult thing in life, I try to just like get to the bottom of it as fast as possible. Like if I'm depressed about something, I just want to get more depressed, and that way I feel like I can find the root of a problem. But with this shelter in place and this COVID-19, I think like for me and a lot of people around me, there's this uncertainty, and the anxiety associated with that is like nothing I've ever felt or dealt with. And
Yeah.
so I don't know if I should like have carefree fun or I should focus on my work or like, and I'm not someone that doubts myself, but I don't know, maybe I should just put all that aside and do what you're saying and like go frolic in the grass. But I have a hard time doing that kind of.
It reminds me of when I would talk to people about movies. And for some reason, it wasn't clicking with me why people kept saying it's a form of escapism. Like, oh, you want to escape? Why? There's a story, there's a lesson, but very few people care about the story or what's actually happening. And so, even in our own personal lives, it happens like that. You miss out on the story by just sort of driving in. And I mean, I was a victim of it from middle school to the last 2 years, just figuring out how to like start my business, how to really get into like how to learn to do the music, how to get good at producing, how to just I only focusing on the grind of these things, only focusing on what's going to get me to the next mission, what's going to get me to the next level, what's going to keep me afloat and things like that. But recently, I really just I kind of had to, I guess, for my own mental health, was like put the phone down and like yeah go outside, you know, breathe, just take a 15-minute breath in between work, even something as small as like that. Now that time is meaningful to me. Like I utilize that time with the maximum ability. A 15-minute break, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get a breath of fresh air. I'm going to look at the sky. I'm going to talk to somebody in my household, and I'm going to get back into what I have to do. But it's holding on to that, because I noticed people would say, as you get older, time goes faster, and I was like, maybe I started to read about that and study that, and I don't think that's the case. I think we lose attachment to moments. The time escapes you. You're so busy doing X, Y, and Z that the day is over, and you're like, damn, I didn't talk to my wife today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, So it's really valuing it. I think it's changing the state of mind about it. Create a value about it. Make yourself feel good about that 10 minutes or hour that you get to spend in the grass or something. Just make, even if it's not something as silly as that, just I need to find a moment where I'm appreciating the moment today. That's it. Like this call.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said right there, like I respect that so much. I just find that so hard to do, um,
It
like
is. It's
at
just
all. Um,
very difficult.
Even I see like the value in it, and when I'm able to do it, I'm so like grateful to myself and that moment. But um, you should write. We need a Adrian Viaud guidebook on how to live in the moment.
I don't know. Look, I'm just learning about moments too. I mean, I spent like I said, the majority of my life from middle school looking out the window at the future, and like the my need to create, my desire and impulse to just design things and create things has taken over me to a point, and it's got me to a certain level I appreciate. But again, that difficulty comes in, like you said. I think for me, I switched my mind frame by saying, what am I doing for other people in that moment? So I would get nervous talking to people a long time ago, and I would see really, like, I guess, dark or very aggressive people find ease in their personalities and stuff like that, and I'd be like, I need to learn how to do that. So in conversation, in order to make myself less nervous or less embarrassed about myself, I think the other person's thinking about what's in their teeth too. So how can I make them feel comfortable? How can I make my wife feel comfortable today? How can I make my kid feel comfortable today, or one of the neighbors? So it's no longer about me. I remove myself from the equation and put myself in a mode of someone else. Even if it's like, hey, can I make you a cup of coffee, hun? Like, I've removed myself from all sense of that moment. It's about the other person.
Um, well, I feel like there's a danger, and not to be argumentative, but there's a danger in that too. Like, because I worked in customer service most of my life, uh, and especially having a business where for a long time I was like on the floor working with customers nonstop, and I finally realized like I just need to insert my own needs back into this equation, because I'm literally like killing myself daily to just please people. Um,
Absolutely. Same.
It's
I know
tight.
all, man, I feel
It's
you.
tightrope walking.
Yeah.
Because I've become somewhat like, I mean, it wasn't your advice that made me do it, but I've been living like what you just described, Adrian, for like the past 2 years, for a reason. But like it got to a point where I didn't really address what was up with me. So I came up with like a slogan that selfishness is self-help sometimes. So
Hmm.
it's just something I
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. I have a similar phrase. It's selflessness is selfishness. And I thought about this long and hard because I was like, no, that can't be right. But I really thought about it, right? Because and it's a balance, right? Because I worked in customer service for most of my life too, restaurant, supermarket, you name it. And just being in that, you're like, oh, I'm serving people, but in that moment, that's kind of commercial servitude, if that makes sense. It's not really about anything. But we talk about each other and our own self worth in the world. And so I found that by really, like, genuinely thinking about other people, that those alliances, no matter how small, will come back in positive way later. That person might vouch for me for my next job. That person might end up my wife. That person might, you know. And so in that sense, I am building a self-worth and a sense of self and a sense of what I need in my life to be better. You know, that just comes, and it's like choices. You have to, giving our energy to people who are just kind of going to drain you, like the customer service industry does. No, like that cuts off. So you got to learn to be a robot. It's a balance. You gotta wear different masks.
You were speaking earlier, and I want to hear your thoughts on the phrase. And I might mess it up, but do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. I'd like to hear what you think of that theory.
I hate that phrase. I hate that phrase. Cause it's like how I feel about it now. Cause that's always subject to change as you go through life. But now it's like, even though I'm working, I don't want it to feel like I'm not working. I don't want to feel like I'm at fun at work. There's distress and eustress, right? Dis is always bad, you is always good, euphoria, etc. So you have these different modes of looking at a situation. I don't want to be distressful at work, but I do love eustress at work. Uh, Challenges that help build character or help us find a new technology, help us find a new way to communicate, whatever. But no, I hate that phrase. You work, never work a day in your life. There are people who are 60 years old that want to work. My grandma wanted to work. She didn't have to be a nurse. She wanted to. She was like, no, I don't have my husband out here. I want to go do something. I want to help people. I want to find a way to make myself active. And I think that's what it comes down to. So being active and always having something to work towards, maybe not work at work specifically, but you should always have something to work towards.
What about like a little more specifically, like what would you say to people that are kind of between pursuing something that just, if they have that option that pays the bills, versus like trying to pursue, I mean, artistry is a great example because it's very hard to monetize.
Uh, we are all trying to get to, well, not all of us, but right, if you work at a Starbucks or something, for instance, it's a corporation. They have a bunch of people that work there. If you work at wherever you work at, if I worked at Def Jam, it's a major label. They have a lot of people that work there. So in my head, I'm always thinking about like, uh, we're we're constantly having to be in this mode of where options and different things need to be available to you. I'm never secure at any level of the game, right? So how you value that moment, again, it comes down to that moment in time, is when you get home from your 9 to 5 or whatever it might be. Even if it's just 1 hour, start something, research, develop, plan. But you because that fear of never being secure is always in the back of our heads, whether you work at a 9 to 5 or not. Whether you, like Erica Badu is a famous soul singer, she don't have no tour money. She had to figure it out. People got bills at every level of this thing. So you're never secure. It's always shaky around here. That's a phrase we have at the company. It's always shaky around here. So you want to build more supports is how I look at it.
I've always
Each Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've always thought about that. And then another thing that like should not be a deterrent to people looking to get into the arts is like some people think there's a talent cap. Like, I mean, there is, and that's not what I meant to say, but like a lot of people, including myself, have had the thought of like, why why would it be me to get lucky? Like making music for some people would be, why would it be me to get lucky? Like doing oil painting, etc., etc. But I've always thought like, if not myself, who else? You know, I mean,
Another interesting way of thinking about that is there's 7.5 billion people on the earth. If all you need is 1,000 people to buy a piece of your art, whether that takes 5 years or 10 years, if you get to that level, you're out. You made it. You did
yeah,
something, right? So your odds are in your favor. If you don't, the odds are out of your favor if you don't do shit. Somebody's gonna want one of these hoodies. you know.
I don't know if I'd give up the cup of coffee before the art, or the art before the cup of coffee. It's hard. It's a hard one.
You know, Andy Warhol has been fascinating me lately. Not that I think he's a genius or anything like everybody else, but he had a philosophy about business art. Art and business. What happens after art is called business art, and that's when he got into having what he called the factory, which was like an environment for creatives to come, or his own artists that work, and they would do things. They would do the Campbell soup cans, they would do screen prints, they would do. So he found a way, like you said earlier, you had to find other avenues to diversify. It couldn't just be about simply coffee. It had to be coffee and then, right? And so this business art, no matter what you're into, whether you sell T-shirts or you're a plumber, there's an art to what you're doing. You're always trying to create more. You're always trying to find a way to even the playing field or get a little bit more than you spent the day before, right? So
That's why. That's why we need to keep music diversified and coffee diversified, so that we don't have
absolutely,
the same nonsense on every corner of every single town in America.
exactly. Oh man, I hate the other company. I hate them. You know the green, yeah, that one. I hate them.
Yeah, we're trying out here to get some city support for small businesses, so that, because if it doesn't last, then a lot of us are gonna, I mean, ourselves included, we're gonna be out for sure, and then there's gonna be just the big old giant. So
Yeah, exactly. So, and this is the again that like you asked me earlier about sort of the innovation and stuff and what the industries are doing. Like you're building alliances, you're building new relationships in other fields or across different industries. That's what's going to help you survive past any earthquake, anything that'll happen. Just having that network of businesses, whether it's in the arts, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in processing plants, whoever, wherever, as long as you have that, uh, that thing is going to be the thing that holds you up during a crisis.
I like that. Yeah, that's so true. It's so true to like create community network right now. Um, like it's so useful to businesses right now. Because I'm seeing like a lot of businesses, even big ones, really, they're like kind of dormant, and now is not the
Hmm.
time to be dormant. Like even if your doors are closed, I mean, maybe scratch work-life balance, but that's a different story. Like it's the time to be creative in industry now for sure.
You know, I don't think there's a time to not ever do it. When companies get like that, I saw a company, Japanese companies are good for this. They find the method, they find the process, and they stay there. And yeah, sure, it might work. Quarterly revenues might be great, but you're not becoming the next thing. You're not finding your staying power across generations. You're not finding a way to. I was thinking earlier, what would happen if certain things did go away from us? Like we couldn't go into retail anymore. So then what would the Gap do, right? What would anywhere Walmart, where we get our T-shirts and socks, wherever we get our major things from, if that we had none of that anymore, a lot of companies would go down. And so it would go back to the local mom and pop grocer with, it would go that way because they would find the ways to get online shopping going. They would have to find the ways to either deliver in community, however that thing is working. And those are things I'm seeing happening. There are small companies doing deliveries. There's small companies doing just all a number of things. At the local ice cream place, they said they saw $100 orders for ice cream coming in now. It's COVID. We're not supposed to be having. You wouldn't think that, right? You wouldn't think ice cream. Let me get some ice. That's the
New
last thing I
flavor.
want. Exactly. Wait, did you ask me what's my flavor?
No, it's a new it's a new ice cream flavor.
Yeah, it's a new ice cream
COVID-19, like
flavor,
whatever you
COVID-19.
want it to be.
Exactly. But just seeing that, right? Just we have the tools. The internet changed everything.
Um, yeah, I'm hopeful that well, I'll keep my. I guess I'm hopeful that some of the smaller businesses in various industries can really just gain a bit of a stronghold, because I know we're going on a lot of really far tangent here. Whatever. I just I see, like, in every industry those really, like, the groups that are able to make power plays that even if they're not creative, they're gonna try and find a way to, like, just smother us again. Um, and Starbucks, like, well, the other guys, excuse me, like, they've had their doors closed a lot around here, and somehow they're able to, like, we're just gonna wait this out. We've got so much money, like, we're good. I mean, I think it's a good strategy. And I actually, like, I respect them in a sense, because I think they innovate. They are an innovative company, and I've heard that they treat their people pretty well. And, like, people ask me about them, and I'm like, their coffee's pretty good. Like their coffee, their black coffee is good. It's decent. It's clean. Like, they have procedures to keep it clean, and they're innovative in that they come up with, like, the Zombieland Frappuccino, or, like, whatever, the seasonal Frappuccino. They're not sleeping. They have, like, a lot of thought going into how can we, like, we're an ice cream shop. That's kind of what I view, a very innovative. And I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, but they'll come out of this. And I guess I just want to be hopeful that, like, the small businesses can do what you're saying, and being creative all the time and figuring out ways to be there on the other end. I hope, I really hope.
Well, what's interesting is uh, corporations. What they do is they buy all the smaller companies. Then they either dissolve them, or it becomes their next, Baskin whatever. And so when I think about that, I just think, oh, well, smaller businesses just group together and form coalitions. That's the same thing. It's just a coalition now, rather than one corporation buying everybody. So finding a way to create some sort of union space that all of the smaller networks of these spaces can, like, connect and lock in, whether it doesn't even have to be paperwork related, but finding a way to lock in community related ways that there's funds, and we can research and get access to different funding or different government supports or whatever that might be. Just having that team between those smaller companies, rather than letting a big guy come and crush everybody. Why don't we just do what they do and come together? They're gonna buy us up anyway, right? So why don't we buy each other, and or in its essence, we're buying into each other's ideas, and forming that network. You're stronger together than they are apart.
Yeah, because I push for that a lot, like, stronger together. um I don't know, I mean, I'd imagine music is just so brutal. The whole industry is so
It's
brutal.
terrible because no artists are trying to. No, you see, artists don't think like that. Like I said earlier, they're just trying to get their smoke off. They're just trying to get their album, or the money that they think, or the fame that they want,
Small
whatever type
business
of.
is the same. It's what I've noticed, is small business is often the same way. It's kind of like, get mine. um
Yeah,
and whoever comes into my circle has some ulterior motive. um which, like talking about myself, for me, that's not the case. Like now I'm able to establish a lot of relationships with other businesses, because they're having to step out of their comfort zone. But
hmm
even in good times, like, it can pay to work with your neighbor. um yeah. How do you, like,
absolutely.
what would you say to, like, convincing people, or trying to show people that it pays to collaborate?
Well, I had to tell myself and get comfortable with this one a long time ago. You can't sell to the unsellable. right? So move on to the next one. Somebody 2 out of 3 is better than 0, right? Somebody's going to work with you. And you guys will be better off for it. That person will be hanging out outside the party, looking in the window like, damn, they're having fun.
You sound like my dad, man. Yeah, he's like, just forget it. Just go next person. Like, I mean, you said it a little more eloquently, but yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that's what happens. Oftentimes we get kind of hurt when somebody that we, especially if it's another peer that doesn't kind of acknowledge us. And I had to go my whole career that way, man. Like my entire career, every step of the way, somebody didn't like either a beat that I sent or a song that I wrote, or I just, after a while, I was like, I can't sell to those people anyway. Maybe that's not my group, but the group that I do find, we're going to understand, we're going to have a similar value base, right? Community is first, you know. Different artists especially could benefit from coming together because they could be the ones that form their network and create their label or their collective that's going to get them to the next level. People oftentimes that don't want to work together have some fear. They're either going to get stolen from, or somebody's going to screw them out of money, or whatever might have you. But intentions, that comes down to that. If I'd rather know that you don't like me than pretend to like me, so that we could end up in a bad partnership.
Adrian, thank you. I don't know if you want to talk about anything else. I mean, the floor's yours.
Do I? I think I think I do. There's a lot of things that COVID and sort of environmental disasters, things outside of our control, they can kind of get under our skin. It can kind of make you feel like there's no way out. I know right now it seems like corruption is at an all-time high, just like rent prices. It just seems like trust is low. It seems like morals and values can be at a low as well. But even when they talk about the market and they're like, the market is unstable and all this, but we're having this conversation. None of us are jumping out of windows like 1920. So something's got to be going right. Something has to be working here. And I think that's the most important thing, is just remembering, like, when I wake up, my family is there, my friends are there, the people who might be going through something, they have another opportunity to try to get it right, and you only have to be right one time.
Um, Thank you for that.
Of course.
Can you extrapolate on that a little bit? Can you be a little more specific for like some of the people that are dense? Um,
About being right once.
yeah.
It's like hitting a lottery, right? I think about 1 in 7 billion, 500,000, 500 million, whatever, or right. So you have all these people. One of them just has to be the factor in creating the next vaccine for this thing. One of us has to be the factor in getting that person to the school they might need to get to. One of us, so it's all over the world. There's a chain of elements. So when you fail a lot of times, like businesses tank, uh, product doesn't sell, things spoil, right? A lot of farms and stuff are sitting on vegetables that can't be sent out. But so you only need to get the idea or the next thing that's going to help set this right once. They only need to get the vaccine right once. And then it's for everybody, just failing a lot and hitting that lottery one time. But if you don't keep playing, so to speak, you don't get that 1%. You don't even have a shot at it. So it's really just keep playing, right? They say life is a game. You got to keep putting your quarters in. You have an infinite amount of quarters in our head. Use them.
Um,
I hope that wasn't esoteric.
no, that was helpful. It reminded me of that show on Netflix. I don't know if you watch it. I can't even remember the name right now, but this guy's like he's laundering money for drug cartel.
Ozark.
And
I love that show.
you know, when he's like a kid and he realizes that the video game's rigged, so he keeps playing, but you know he's cheating the right. He learns that like even though he's the best at the game or whatever, like the other guy who's got more coins wins because he's able to just keep. It's not really about how good you are; it just kicks you off the machine.
Right.
I didn't mean to sabotage your keep playing that for. It made me.
It's perfect.
It's a cynic in me, but I do support the continuance of playing.
It's all we got, right? I mean, it's easy to be a nihilist at this time, or somebody who's just sees no hope in the world. And the truth is, as long as your stomach is growling, you're gonna need food. So that means it keeps going. That means you got to play, no matter what.
I'm gonna say a little something to myself as I pause, stop recording.